The pendulum swings from the left back to the right. The best course of action gets swallowed in the fight. So let's join together, speaking truth, not a riddle. Relevant, healing, hope. It's the man in the middle.
Good morning, North Central Arkansas and the world, we hope. But it is a great morning this morning, and we're looking forward to our show this morning. I'm going to get right into it pretty quick because we got a lot going on this morning. We're going to be highlighting and talking about the Brandon Burlsworth Foundation, and that's the main thing that we're covering today, and that's what the show is all about. And we have Chad Abernathy. I'll get it right in a minute. One of the players that played with Brandon that'll be coming on here just very, very shortly. But just a little bit of overall coverage on this. I want to cover the Brandon Burlsworth Foundation for those of you that may not be familiar with it. Brandon's story and my story came together and when he was 11 years old, and he was able to make an impact on my life, and hopefully I made one on his also. So we've got a little snafu going on now. We got both parties online this morning. I was expecting Marty to call a little bit later.
He's calling later?
I was expecting him to,
okay.
but that was because of the signals and things where he's traveling this morning, traveling to Fayetteville this morning. One of the things that's going on with them this morning is if you are a college football fan, of course you know that today is the beginning of the college football season. I think it's the 150th year of college football, and they are being highlighted today on Game Day on ESPN, and their segment on Game Day will be at 9:20 this morning. You can catch up with that. Now then, who have we got? Okay, Chad. Go ahead and bring Chad on.
Okay.
Good morning, Chad. How are you?
Hold on. We got to get him on the air.
Okay, we got to get him on the air. Okay. Good morning, Chad. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Rick. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. We had a little bit of miscommunication there. I guess Marty got into the better signal before I thought he would this morning. And but we want to start with you. I know that you were a teammate of Brandon's, and there at the University of Arkansas. And part of your story that I really want to cover this morning is coming from Mountain View. That's a biggie to have a Razorback from Mountain View. There hadn't been too many of them from our area around here, has there?
No, not too many. And we weren't a powerhouse in the state, so we weren't winning a lot of games. Or I think we won 7 games in 3 years, actually.
Right.
My senior year, we had 18 guys on the team, so it was Ironman football. You never come off the field. You had to hydrate good before and after. So it was a big deal.
Now, when did you come on? Did you come on at the same time that Brandon did, or were you okay? Same year.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we played in the All-Star game together and came in as true freshmen together, and we're there the 5 years together.
I got you. And that similarity of Ironman football, him with walking on at the University of Arkansas, were you recruited there?
Yes, I was recruited. The only reason I got seen, though, was because I went to football camp for 2 years. It wasn't because of our Mountain View's winning record.
Stellar record.
That's great.
Yeah, I went to, I told my parents that was the best $400 investment they ever made, because I went to football camp for 2 years, and Danny Ford, for some reason, liked me. And, at the time, you don't put it in perspective, but as I've gotten older now, I was not a division. I mean, people that remember back then, I was not a Division I athlete. Right. For some reason, he just liked a country kid that I did work hard when I was in camp, and I was. It took me longer to get ready than it did Brandon to play. So I mean, it's just one of those things that. I just had to get in there and work hard.
You guys kind of paired up and started working together some, didn't you?
Yes, I tried it. In the movie Greater, when they show him losing all that weight and coming down, he got down, I believe, somewhere between 250, 260. Well, I was on the other end. When I come into college, I was a defensive end, but I weighed 235 coming out of Mountain View. They had me projected to be a defensive end / tight end. And then football's hard everywhere, but when Danny and those guys come in, Danny Ford and his crew come in, they had a bunch of guys they were trying to run off, and so they instead of just cutting guys, they were just working us so hard. We were having guys leave. We were having good guys leave too, and when we get together now, some of the guys I played with, we tell stories. I mean, there were guys that left in the middle of the night with full scholarships and just left and went home to Texas to wherever, and so they were working us. So they ran some people off, and they needed some offensive linemen. So I converted over at about 250 pounds, and Brandon was right in that range, and so they just paired us up to work out together, and we worked out probably for a couple of years till we both got up in the close to 285, 290 that I was getting to, and then of course I went on up to 305 that last year, but they put it back on.
And he was at 308. I'm going to come back after this break and talk to you for just a little bit, all right? And and we'll continue on. We're going to get into the football camps and some of the things that you do with the Burlsworth Foundation.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. All right, we're back, and I'm speaking with Chad Abernathy. We're talking about the Brandon Burlsworth Foundation today, highlighting it, and again, they will be on College Game Day today a little bit later at 9:20 this morning's when their segment's supposed to run, and so we're excited about all that. But Chad, you were talking about being from Mountain View, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to highlight you is Mountain View is part of our listening area here at KCGS. Plus the fact that some of these guys can know that how much is possible for them. Now they may not be a Division I football player and that kind of thing. That's a very rare gift and talent and ability and things, but they can see what determination can do, whether you're playing for the Razorbacks or you're working for Pfizer over in Jonesboro.
You
right?
bet. You bet.
Are you there?
That's right. Yes, okay. That's right. I mean, that's the whole. I mean, the biggest part. One of the biggest parts of his story is just the effort that he put in, which is translated in the movie. Just doing extra. I mean, if you set goals and it's true for anything, not just sports. But right. If you're going to have to put. I mean, you're competing in everything. That's what I try to tell my kids now. That's one great thing about sports is it teaches you to compete. Because even when you get into the job, under the real world, you're going into the job, you're competing every day, whether you know it or not. You really are, especially if you're wanting to move up and excel at that job. You're competing against folks, and that's so you got to learn how to compete, and that's something that we try to instill in the kids, especially in the camp that we're doing.
Something that I love about the camp, and as you brought that up, is you guys that have been coming there for, we're 22 years into this end of his life and things, and what's been accomplished and things after that. But what I wanted the folks to hear is like in your story, also, there's his has been highlighted, and a lot of it was because of the death and those kind of things, but also the character issues is what has lived on for the 22 years, and your story is that. Also, I had the privilege of hearing you speak to the boys at the Brandon Burlsworth football camps this year there in Harrison. I was able to work the camp with you guys, and man, it was. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. 120 or 30 boys sitting there for ages from third grade to going into the ninth grade, I think it was, and they listened to every word you said, because I believe that you paid a price for that. In the working that you did as a football player, but also as a dad and a businessman now, the respect that was there was just amazing.
Yeah, and we have a lot of good speakers. A lot of those guys they go around a lot of those guys that speak at our camp they do a lot of traveling, do a lot of speaking. I don't do a whole. I mean, in my job, I'm in sales, but I speak in front of people every day. But those when Marty called me a couple years ago, I'd really never spoke, but he asked me to speak at one of the camps, and I said sure. And I was thinking about. I really started thinking about what would Brandon want me to talk about in the camp, and I mean that really for some reason that hit me, and I said what would he want me to, if he was there, what would he talk about? And I, of course, everybody, we're going to talk about football, and that's what I came out to. The talk that you heard me talk was just, I was asking the boys what they thought Brandon's priorities were based on because a lot of them had seen the movie Greater, and And I said, well, I started listing them out. I said, where do you think football ranked? And, as a priority, and nobody really answered. I said, well, to me, and I said, I'm just living with him, around him for 5 years, almost every day. I told him, I said, football's probably number 4, as good as he was, All-American, and got drafted in 3rd round,
right.
and, got a scholarship. I said, football's probably number 4. And then I went up to the rank, and I said, number 3, from what I saw, was probably his schoolwork.
Right.
He did school, graduated in 4 years, or graduated in 5 years or whatever it was with a master's, which is unheard of, especially with all the stuff we were going through at that time. And then I said, his number 2 priority, well, from what I saw, was his family. Mm-hmm. His family was important. And then I asked, everybody, most of the kids that had seen the movie, I said, what do you think his number 1 priority were? And a lot of his kids, and that's a great thing about the movie, it was show that, church or Christ was his number 1 priority, because it shows it in the movie, and but I talk about it too when I do the talk, is that he left the ring ceremony. We were getting rings for winning the Western Division that night. He didn't come to it to go home to go to church with his family.
Yeah. He didn't he didn't come to the ceremony. He went home to see Barbara. Yeah.
Something we'd worked for 5 years for. Yeah. Blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, we worked. They worked this for 5 years. I mean, we put a lot of time and effort. And
winning the Western Conference of the SEC is not a little thing.
No, I mean, that's obvious. I mean, it doesn't happen every year.
No.
It's hard to do. We went 9-3 that year after going a couple of 4-7 seasons, and it just meant something, because we put in years of our life to get where we could do that. But I tell the boys, that wasn't Brandon's priorities. I mean, it was, but they were lower down the list. And I said, when I talk to those kids, I say, you see, there's people in the world now, you see their priorities are all messed up. And you may have family members that their priorities are messed up. They may be doing stuff they're not supposed to. And I said, you know what, if you put God first, like Brandon did, and then whatever else trickles down below it, but if you put God first and focus on Him and try to build a personal relationship, then everything else will be better off, regardless of what it is underneath there, because it'll direct you in the path you need to go. And it's most of the time going to be family and some other stuff down there, but who knows? But I said, as long as they prioritize and put God first, and that's what Brandon did, and that's what showed in his daily walk when he was at school for 5 years, when some of us were out doing stuff we probably shouldn't have been doing, and he was, doing the right just all the time. And that's why the movie, that's, for the ones that really know him, that's what's so impressive, especially as you get older. There's so much outside activity going on in college, and besides schoolwork and all that. It's just, you admire someone who's got the structure and able to make themselves mentally stay focused and keep to it.
Anthony Lucas shared a story with me when we were doing interviews, during the greater release of the movie and things, and Anthony shared a story off camera and out of sight with me about one of his first impressions and the way that Brandon impressed him. And one of the things was the improvement that he made. Everybody could see how he was improving, and because of work, and some of them were questioning what he was doing. At the first, some of those especially that saw him walk on that first year and then see the change in his body and all of that. But then they began to watch him at a distance. Now, these are the 4-star guys, or whatever you want to call them, and things, according to Anthony, were watching him, wondering, why he is improving at the way he is. And they began to see that he was either on the field, he was either in the weight room, or he was in his class or in his dorm room studying, and the focus of all that. And so Anthony said he got the courage, said, Burlsworth, tell me, what's your secret? What's your secret? You got to tell me what your secret is. And he said Brandon was laying on his little bed there in the dorm room, and he said he never even looked at him. Brandon never even looked at him. He just reached up on the shelf, because he always knew where everything was on the shelf. It was all in a certain order. Of course, they used to mess with him with that. I heard some of you guys did. But anyway, so he reached up on the shelf, and he pulled down, without looking, his Bible and pointed it at Anthony. and he never said a word, and he put it back. And then Anthony came to him. Then weeks later, he and another player came to him and said, "Could we start a Bible, club or a Bible study together?" And Brandon, in his fashion, said, "Well, I don't know why we couldn't," but he said, "I'm not a teacher."
Yeah,
But
yeah, we were in
was
that.
a teacher.
Me and my wife, I was married before my senior year, and there were several of us seniors that were married, and our wives began coming in there and going to and it grew to a large. We would have it seemed like 15 or 20 come in there, wives included, and do Bible study. So yeah, it was a close knit group, and like you said, it just takes one to get something like that started.
Absolutely.
And it spreads good things, and lets everybody grow.
How long have you been involved in the Burlsworth football camps?
Since day one.
Yeah.
Since day one, we've
So
been
20. It's almost 20 years now, isn't it? I know they didn't start just immediately.
I think it was 2000 when it started.
Right.
So I guess 19, 20 years.
Yeah. And you're one of the ones. You and Joe Dean, I know Joe Dean Davenport's been at every one. He had to miss one this year because
I missed one. I missed one about, my son's 14, so 14 years ago I missed because my son was born in May, and I thought I'd stay in my wife's good graces, so I didn't go at the end of May there.
Well, I think that's had something to do with Joe Dean's missing this year too. He had a new baby too. But it's so great to hear from you and to hear the impact that Brandon had on you, but also the impact that you're still having on the state of Arkansas. And so
I appreciate it.
We so appreciate you and your involvement in the Burlsworth Foundation and also just your involvement in life. Tell us just a little bit before I turn you loose here about your family, your wife and your children.
So, like I said, me and my wife, Andrew, we met there in college. We've been married for 21 years now. We got married in 98. We've got 2 kids. My daughter, Taylor's 17. She's a volleyball player here in Jonesboro. My son's 14, and so he's playing football, of course. He's playing left tackle.
Is he?
At junior high. So they just both started up this week. So
but you were telling me that he's in 8th grade, right?
Yes, he's 8th grade.
Yeah, and he's playing with the 9th graders.
Yeah, he's getting to play up this year.
And it's not Iron Man football in Jonesboro, is it?
No, but they've got about 70 on the team. So he worked hard this summer with me. We did. I was doing some men's challenge, actually, a men's challenge through our security team at our church, and called SoulCon, and it's a biblical-based training deal, and it's real good. And he did a lot of that with me. He did. One day's like 24 hours of push-ups, and he did 850 push-ups in 24 hours.
Oh, my
one day
goodness.
work. So for a 14-year-old, that's pretty good.
That's fantastic. Yeah. He had no idea what he was being born into, though, the work ethic of Chad Abernathy.
I've been taking him to these Burlsworth camps ever since he was too young to go. But he's, just being around all those guys, those good quality guys like you've seen these last few years, it's helped him.
Yeah.
Want to do football. He's ate up with football now and other stuff too. But he just when he's around good guys like that can teach him some stuff, it makes him grow away.
Exactly.
So hopefully some other kids that go to those camps.
It is, and something I was sharing with you yesterday. Marty and I have had the opportunity over the last 3 years, I guess it is, to visit the prisons in the state of Arkansas, and we're going there. But one of the things that we have opened up to is for their children to attend those football camps, and we had some of the first ones there in Little Rock this year.
That's awesome.
Prisoners'
that's what
children.
It's for.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about, and teaching folks that we can overcome some things. We're all going to have struggles. We're all going to have situations in our life that don't seem fair. That's always going to be there. But it's how we handle those. That is our testimony, is how we handle those, because somebody's always watching.
That's right.
Exactly. Chad, thank you so much for being on with me today, and God bless you, and God bless your family, and I'm looking forward to visiting with you again here pretty soon.
Sounds good, Rick. Appreciate it.
All right. God bless.
Thank
Folks,
you.
that was Chad Abernathy, former Arkansas Razorback, who went on to the Minnesota Vikings and played some pro ball also. But the success of Chad Abernathy and these guys that were on that team together that I've got to know is 21 years of marriage, working to provide for his family. You heard about him working with his children. He also works in his church. He works in his community, and just the character of being a man. Skip, what do you think? What do you think of Chad?
Oh, he's an awesome individual.
Yeah.
To be that motivated takes some intestinal fortitude.
Yeah, exactly.
And
there's a picture on his Facebook page of he and his wife and kids going to some event where they're in costume.
Yeah.
And Chad's in just a regular business suit. His wife is Princess Leia.
Oh.
And I think the kids are some other characters, there. And then the little boy grabs his daddy's shirt and pulls it open. It's got Superman underneath it. And that's what he looks like too.
My gosh.
If you see him, he looks like Clark Kent. And so if you go to his Facebook page, you can see him. And also on my Facebook page today, I ran a picture of he and Brandon together in the glory days of the Razorbacks. I remember that last year, and the team that came together was amazing. They had a shot up until the last few seconds in the Tennessee game of being national champions, having a shot at that, and they were so devastated over a play that Brandon was involved in. There, Clint Sterner, and Clint, if you're out there listening or anything, I'm gonna tell you like it is, and Brandon happened to step on his foot, and he dropped the ball as he was falling, and those things happen. That's football.
Well, if all the other events of the game hadn't led up to that wouldn't have been even a crucial
There
play.
wasn't even a reason for
there's
it.
no reason.
One of the reasons that Brandon was drafted as high as he was because of the speed that he had. And then one of the plays in that game, he ran down the linebacker that had picked up a fumble that caused that situation to come. At 308 pounds, he ran down a linebacker that ended up playing, I think, for New Orleans.
Wow.
All right, we'll be back in a little bit. Marty and Miss Barbara should be joining us here in just a little bit, and we're looking forward to talking to them and talking more about the Brandon Burlsworth Foundation.
I'm going to tell you, I think you called and stuff because she said ask that, man.
Are you, Marty, you're on the air. I just, I'll let you know. You was probably talking to your mom. It's great to have you guys this morning. I know that you're heading you're heading up the road, and you're such a pro that you can handle that.
We'll see. We'll see if the cell service can handle it, Rick.
Exactly. Are you guys in an area that's going to be kind of open, or are you going to be coming and going through this area?
It's hard to say, but I think we got past. We just came through that area there. That, I think we're going to be all right.
Once you get up around Marble, but you guys are headed to Fayetteville today to do a ribbon cutting. Is that right? He may have hit one of those areas.
Just about the time you had false hopes.
That's okay. That's all.
There he is.
There he is. You're headed up to.
My back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
You're headed up to Fayetteville to do a ribbon cutting this morning. Isn't that right?
Ribbon cutting for the new Hall of Honor.
Yeah.
So, we got to preview it Thursday evening. I hope it's finished now because it wasn't finished then. So I'm sure the paint may still be wet. But
I know
we're
you're
going to have the ribbon cutting today.
I know your perfectionism. You will even worry and be concerned about things that you can't do anything about.
I can't do a thing about it. I know it. It's a curse.
Exactly.
That is for sure.
That's some of that Burlsworth focus, on everything that's going on.
I guess so.
A lot of people may not know by you that you have that focus also, and that little lady that's in that passenger seat there with you is where you guys get a lot of that from. And good morning, Miss Barbara.
Morning, Rick.
How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm all right.
And off to another event, are we?
Yes. I'm sitting here buddy.
Yeah, Barbara and I, we go back to church together, and bringing Brandon. She brought Brandon into the church at about. They were already there actually when I came. I think it wasn't it, Brandon, Barbara?
I believe so, Rick.
Yeah, and Brandon was one of the first ones that we had in our little startup youth group that we started up there. But God has blessed me with her in my life, and she's been a great supporter of our ministry all through the years, and it's a blessing to be able to continue to work with you.
Oh, thank you, Rick.
And we, Marty, you guys are going up, and they have placed his trophy there in that Hall of Honor, isn't that right? Or not the trophy and his locker,
Yeah.
isn't that right?
The trophy and the locker. Yeah, they're both in there, Rick. Vicki and I previewed it Thursday night, and it's been in the locker room for years. And now it's in the Hall of Honor, and where everyone will be able to see it. And then the Burlsworth Trophy is on display there. And I say that the university administration did a great job of keeping us family involved and input as far as where the locker goes, the placement of it, how it's done, the design of how it was. The finished, how it was displayed. It's the original locker. It's encased, protected, but there's some photos of him in there, but it's in glass, just as it was for almost 20 years in the Razorback locker room. But it's all that movement was necessary because of all the redesign in the north end zone. I mean, of course, all that came to the ground a couple of years ago, and then a new center
I got
back, and it's really nice.
I got to see some of that when we were there for the Burlsworth Trophy presentation this year. They did us a walkthrough on some of that part of it. That's right, yeah. And they were still in construction really of the part that you're seeing cutting the ribbons on this weekend. And
this is kind of phase 2 of that end zone opening. And actually, there was a ribbon cutting today, but the Colorado State game, I'm not sure. I think it's 2 or 3 weeks. That's actually going to be
the official.
What they will call the grand opening, but it will be open as of today.
Gotcha. And then you're going up there. They wanted you to be there for when the game day segment airs, don't they? They want you to be there.
Yeah. They've when we found this, or got the schedule for this, and I think they really probably weren't sure exactly when it was going to be. I guess like when the paint would be drying up for them to have the ribbon cutting, but they've arranged to we'll be in the Letterman's Club, the A Club, or somewhere, and watching the game.
And
game
that's been your life now for 20 some odd years. You it's been interesting that I've been working with you now for about 4 years that I've been able to work with you guys.
Right.
But to see how day to day you guys basically, there are things that you have planned out and that you work on to schedule and line up, and you do a beautiful job with them. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But there's a lot of this off the cuff stuff that comes up, isn't there, with the Burlsworth Foundation?
Yeah, there is, Rick, and I mean you were with us some this week, and one of those things, of course, we got close to a great young man, Titus Griggs,
exactly.
who was just a super example to all of us. Became a big Brandon Burlsworth fan through the movie Greater, and was such an inspiration to us. Young man had reoccurring cancer, and he had brain cancer, and he passed last Sunday, and we were able to be there. You were with us, Rick, but Coach Tyson and I were part of his celebration of life, and it's just what a great family, and I mean.
I know that you and Brandon work together hand in hand, especially through his time of high school and college, and going there and being drafted and all of those things. And I know that you guys had dreams and thoughts of what you would do after football. also.
Oh yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
And a lot of this that's happening now is the result of some of those conversations and those dreams and thoughts that you'd be able to do, but you had no idea that you would get into it as fast as you did.
No, not really. I mean, that's for certain.
Yeah.
Brandon and I talked about having children, underprivileged children, attend Indianapolis Colts game. You know, NFL players are known for, you know, having their banner in the stadium and hosting a group, you know, at the games. And so he and I talked about that. He wanted to do that. We talked about having some football camps. You know, it was all just pretty casual talk. You know, and but through those talks and working with Coach Broyles, gosh, this is the 20th year. Our Burls kids that attend every Razorback home game. This is our 20th year. These are children that, you know, we never thought about doing on the college level.
Right.
But we had a stadium expansion taking place in the south end zone at that time, and so now we have these children seeing the very first Razorback game. We'll have a group there today that'll be coming from
Van Buren is where they're coming from. We lost
children every week, and we still have the same program there in Indianapolis with the Colts.
Yeah, and that's amazing, you know, that 20 years down the line that some of those dreams and aspirations that were yours and his at that time, that you and Vicki and Barbara have been able to see that come to fruition, and not only see it happen, but also see it continue. And it's just amazing.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, Vicki does a super job. Little stressful this week. We're trying to get our walkthroughs going. With a new end zone, new north end zone, and with the museum opening and all that.
Let me just interrupt you for a minute. And with the Burlsworth family, you know, if you've read the book Eyes of the Champion, you'll see that Brandon had his ways of doing things, and if anything changed that, he would literally move mountains to get it back into the focus. And I know Marty has that, Barbara has that. They have that capability and that part of their character that does that. And so it is so stressful for them when these changes happen, and even changing the walkthrough, the whole process of the kids and things that they've been doing for so many years and doing it so well with precision. To have this change this year has been really tough, and especially with Titus's death and ESPN coming to her house, Vicki's house this week, so you ladies know what that would be like.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've been dealing with all of that. I'm going to go to a break here in a little bit, Marty, and if I can get you to hang on, we'll come back into the next segment, and I want to talk about the Burlsworth Trophy a little bit when we come back, and what's going on with it. I know last year our winner was Hunter Renfro, and he's playing this year for the Oakland Raiders, which if any team needs a character development, that would be one.
And they got him a good one.
They got him a good one. So I'll be back with you in just a few minutes.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, we're back, and we're trying to get Marty back on here again. Marty, you there? Okay, he's not there yet.
Here I am.
There he is. Okay, good.
Sorry.
Good deal.
Sorry.
No problem. You just came right back on time. It was just right.
Well, time's the break.
That's it. I told him, I said, it may not be a signal thing. He may just be getting another call from the university or somewhere.
Joe Dean Davenport called. Joe Dean called.
That's what I figured.
Got to answer.
Joe Dean calls, everything stops. That's just the way it is.
Everything stops for Joe Dean.
That's it. That's it. We had mentioned we're going to talk about the Burlsworth Trophy. It's been catching a lot of attention across the nation. Something great happened with it this last year, and being recognized as one of the biggies is the only way I know. You know the correct title for it. Did you tell the folks a little bit about what happened with the trophy?
Yes, I mean when we first began with the Burlsworth Trophy, we got word that in order to be in the elite group, as you could say, that is the National College Football Awards Association, you had to be in existence for 5 years to be voted on, and we just couldn't get a vote, couldn't get a before them or anything, but we were in December voted in to that, and they had not had a new member in a couple of years. I attended our first meeting in New York this summer, and the discussion was they're not adding any for at least 2 more years.
Right.
So it's a special group. Of course, it includes the Heisman, Maxwell Award, the receiver award that.
I think the Doak Walker's in there too, isn't it?
Doak Walker's on there. Yeah, all the ones that you see on the Home Depot College Awards show
Right.
this is that group.
Right.
We are now in that group. That does not mean that we'll have a big space on ESPN, although I would imagine with College Game Day,
That'll kind of help. That won't hurt. That won't hurt a bit.
That won't hurt. So they're going to know us now.
Yeah, exactly. I've only got about a minute with you left, and I do want to say, folks, the foundation, what it's all about. I'll talk about that in the last segment, but the work that they do and the opportunity that we have is just amazing for where you can put your money and things, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. But Marty, the Burlsworth Trophy, the Character Award, the Greater the Movie, the Legends Dinner, the Burls Kids, the Eyes of the Champion, and we're talking about millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars that have gone to and through these programs. And how many folks work at the foundation?
There is myself, Vicki, Cindy, and then we have a development director. But it's just me, Vic, and Cindy.
Right, and it's just amazing.
So, lean and mean.
And I have a friend of mine. Yeah, lean and mean, exactly. I have a friend of mine that's a grant writer, and you remember talking with her, and you all sent her some information of how the funds are distributed and things, and she was just shaking her head because she's written grants for some of the largest foundations in America, and she just cannot believe of what goes into the community from what's been given.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
infrastructure thing in a business-like manner to automate processes as much as possible and to get every bit out of every dollar.
Exactly.
And Rick, you do a great job with us too. Don't want to
thank you, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, we love you. You guys have a wonderful day, and thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having us on, Rick.
All right, God bless. Bye-bye, Barbara. All right, we're back, and I'm joined in the studio by Tommy and Skip, and thank you guys for being in here with me today. And I know that was a little hectic.
Well, you've got all the little guys off. Now it's time for
Now we're bringing the big guns.
I just sat here the entire time in awe of the humbleness of these guys and everybody involved. Rick, you included. Everybody's passing the buck to the.
I don't do nothing. I don't do nothing either.
Did you
it's
notice that?
It's you.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's you.
It was like, well, we couldn't do that, and I couldn't do it, and it's like, and I'm just.
That's the reason it works.
I was in awe, just leaning against the wall back here, going.
And Skip,
wow.
you said it. That's the reason it works, and to think that just a few of us that work in this endeavor, and for something to where the person of focus has been gone for 20 some odd years, and we're considered a very small foundation in the foundation world, but that it just doesn't happen, that it continues on.
That's called a legacy, and those that work on their legacies usually don't have one like that.
Yeah.
And those that are truly worthy of it, their legacy lives on.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, there's some behind-the-scenes things that I can't talk about now that are happening that are going to propel the Burlsworth Foundation into the next 20 years.
Gotcha.
And it's just amazing. I know that the door that's open to me as a life and character coach and building a program of that was started here in Marshall, and the opportunity to go in and let Marshall, my home school, be our laboratory has just been phenomenal. This year we've been given an assembly there in the high school. Chad, I've asked him to be there. Marty, of course, will probably be there, of course, also, and some character award winners from Marshall in the past. I've asked J.W. Lumen to be there,
yes.
and Juan Salazar.
Oh.
And we're going to have a round table discussion of character.
Good stuff.
In front of all them. And then there's another special guest that I'm not going to tell you who's going to be there, and nobody will know it until that day.
That's awesome.
But it's somebody that you won't want to miss speaking and talking about. But it'll be a round table, and hopefully we're going to get questions from the kids before the assembly and things. They'll kind of frame our discussion, and from the administration and things along that line. I know they're having a faculty meeting, I believe it's this coming week, to where they're going to be talking about the character needs that they would like us to highlight this year throughout the year. And so we're excited about all that, and we've been contacted by 23 different school systems in the state wanting to have Brandon Burlsworth Foundation life and character coaches, and so there's plans to do camps for them.
Awesome.
Also, and as we continue to grow with the program. But the character award is one of the ends of the program that I'd like to talk about for just a minute. It's for that young person that is a character-driven person. It's not necessarily for the best athlete on the team or the best football player on the field, but it's for that person that shows up early, stays late. It's for that person that is constantly doing what you said that we were doing there, passing it to someone else, deflecting the attention. Yep. And those kind of things. And if we do put any of the attention in any major area in a character-driven life, we do it toward the one who has instilled character within us and showed us true character, and that's Jesus Christ. And we may not say that. Some places aren't comfortable with us saying that, but that is what it's all about.
It's prevalent.
That's what it's all about. And that's what drives us and drives the foundation. And like I say, folks, I know that with my church and your churches out there, if you'd like to take us on as a missions project, we're a wonderful missions project, because we're not only reaching the state of Arkansas, but because of the movie Greater and some of the other doors that are open. Now this character award has the potential to going to every high school in the United States, and we had 2,700 high schools participate this last year. So that's just pretty exciting. Well, folks, I wish I had a little more time to talk about my favorite foundation, but I've got to go. Thank you all for listening today. Tommy, Skip, you didn't get a big part today, but thank you for being here. We so appreciate it.
Amen.